you about other avenues to sell stuff in besides just eBay. You know, my life is pretty much eBay centric. I'm always doing eBay. You know, I just got my auctioneer's license.
I do.
So I'm excited to branch off into the auction business, the live auction business
You're gonna love
as
it.
well. But I'd like to talk to you about estate sales because you brought up we were helping clear out a house in Gary, and you mentioned an estate sale might be a good fit.
Yeah.
So tell me what is an estate sale?
Well, you've got a living estate. In this case, it would be a living estate.
Okay.
Although in actuality, a lot of that was someone that was dead, being her mother, I'm sure, just by talking. And then you have a dead estate sale, you know, and they just tend to produce better stuff. Like when you pick at a garage sale, you'll find out that you only get a good item here or there, maybe 2 or 3 items at a garage sale. Overall,
Okay.
I went into garage sales where there was a lot of old stuff, but overall, 90% of the time or plus, when you go to a garage sale, you don't see many old things. With an estate sale, as a rule, somebody's died, you're going to see higher quality stuff. It depends on how much higher quality. But with this particular individual, that is, you know, higher quality. You know, you got Wedgwood. You're talking about Parapoint. You're talking about they got a Lucy Tiffany shade. Somebody in the family. The old stuff that we've seen, you know, that you directed me to. That's all old stuff.
Now, when an estate sale, is it typically selling everything in the house? So the furniture,
Yes.
the fixtures, everything,
Yes.
everything that you can see and pick up.
Yes.
Okay, so
Although they do have some reserves, you know, we used to throw a sheet over it or a blanket or what do you call that, painter's cloth.
okay, but there's going to be a lot more items probably
yeah.
than you'd see in a garage sale.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, do you think the people that come to an estate sale are prepared to pay more than people that come for a garage sale?
I say that's an absolute certainty.
Okay, so when they see that term estate sale, they know they're not going to get the dime quarter stuff.
They're looking for the better stuff, a lot of them. Of course, there's a lot of real good pickers there too, but I'm talking about collectors like estate sales. You know, they're looking for one specific thing or maybe several specific things. And then the pickers are looking for better items.
Okay, if you're going to run an estate sale, do you put prices on all the items that you're going to sell?
It's a good idea if it's a big estate sale. It's a good idea. Of course, you know me, I don't like that. But I like them to pick it up and say how much, you know, so you can talk to them. That's been my style since the beginning. But overall, I'd say pricing would help.
Now, would you price it
Although
a lot higher than
although
what
I
you
went
wanted?
to many of them that didn't have them, you know.
Would you price it a lot higher than what you wanted to get?
Oh yeah.
Double?
No, I'd probably take it up 25%.
Up by about 25%.
I don't think I'd double it, although some people probably would. But that wouldn't be my style.
Now, my fear would be, especially dealing with a lot of glassware and stuff, not knowing the market value of it and pricing it too low where we might let something good slip by. If we did it as an auction, you'd have people bidding it up to the market. Why would you prefer an estate sale over an auction?
You mean as a buyer?
No, as a
seller?
seller.
For one thing, as a rule, there's a lot of stuff to deal with, and you're going to get a lot of people because you're advertising usually in several papers, maybe even a radio and Craigslist. And I have done all that, plus passed off flyers. You just have a better volume of people. They're going to swarm. They'll swarm the place if you list the right things. Like, for instance, you list things like Roseville, Cast Iron, Griswold, all those big names, the stuff that's there. Even that glass, Ruby Red Swirl. That Ruby Red is called the Red Swirl. It's made by Anchor Hockey. And that stuff's expensive stuff, and people know that name. When they see that, they may be looking for stuff like that. They may collect it.
Now, on a medium-sized estate, like this house has got a basement, it's got a first level, and it's got an upstairs, and it's got an attic. So three livable level, well, 2 livable levels, the basement and the attic. How much time do you need to prepare prior to the day of the estate sale for a house like that?
That appears to be, if she doesn't do the second story, and I don't think she will. I think it'll be strictly everything on the first story, the attic and the basement, and the garage if there's anything left. 2 days.
2 days. Now, does that include setting up tables or however you're going to display
Yep.
the stuff?
Yep.
And does that include all your price research and trying to figure out how to price the stuff?
Well, most of it you can just price right off the top of your head as a rule. You know, you have an idea.
Well, see, you might, but for me, that glassware is a foreign world. You know, a lot of it doesn't sell today like it did
That's
5
right.
years ago, and I wouldn't know where to price it. A lot of that.
Okay, like it won't sell on
eBay.
eBay as well, but it does sell, but it just don't bring much. I'm talking about Wedgwood in my mind, I'm sorry. But when you advertise that Wedgwood, there are pieces of Wedgwood worth thousands and thousands of dollars. So people are, you know, envisioning finding a piece worth thousands and thousands of dollars. And when they get there and see a $5 or $10 piece, they're there already, so they're going to buy something.
Now you're gonna do the estate sale for the lady. So are you the ultimate person who decides on the price that you accept? And is that part of your contract that you say you leave the pricing up to me?
Well, I always kind of, you should, yeah. You should have complete control of it as far as I'm concerned, because otherwise they'll price it so high you're wasting your time, because you
Right.
are working on a commission. What I used to tell them is they'd say, well, I'd say this is worth $100. I want to put $100 on it and hope we get 75. And they say, well, I was hoping to get 200 out of that. I said, well, you know what? That might not be a bad idea. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'll just charge you by the hour, and then you can price everything.
Gotcha.
I say it real serious, too.
Now
They usually say how much an hour. When they say that, you know that they want to boost the price up. I usually say $40, $50 an hour.
now if the owner knows a lot about all the stuff, is it good to have that owner at the estate sale so she can provide background on pieces and tell history and such? Is that going to help it, or?
I'd say yes, yeah.
Okay.
Although they can be in the way, and the woman we're talking about, she's a talker.
Well, I mean,
Nice, good talker, though.
it could be a plus or a minus,
It
you
could.
know, and it's hard to say,
It's true.
you know, but I think in general, knowledge is power, and it raises
Sure it
the
is.
price. You know, so I'd probably go for it more than against
Sure.
it.
It'd be nice to have her there for background on it.
Mhm.
You know.
And it's another person, because that's another question I wanted to ask you. You got, you know, potentially an upstairs, downstairs, basement. How many people do you need there, workers, during the estate sale? For one,
Three.
to answer questions. For two, to negotiate prices.
Well,
and
she'll
for-
be there automatically, you know. She'll be there. But I would say, just say we were doing it, I'd say that if I ever had the decision, I'd put you on the cash register to talk to people coming out and watch the money.
Mhm.
I'd wander about looking and help and sell it and carry things, and then one other person to carry stuff and go into the basement and help people and carry stuff up maybe or something like that. But you can get by with 2 or 3.
Okay. So in general, you charge a commission to run the estate sale.
You do.
Rather than an hourly rate.
You do.
And if you do an hourly rate, you put it fairly high so you can make up for your
Yes.
time.
I did do a couple of estate sales for an hourly rate, and glad I did.
Well, if they got stuff that's priced too high and it's not going to sell, you're definitely going to be better off with an hourly rate.
And I always get a deposit too, if it's an hourly rate, because you can see right away that they're not going to sell the stuff. They'll argue with you, and in their mind it is, but it's not necessarily true.
Now, what elements do you think are important to put in that contract to run the estate sale? What are the important aspects?
First thing to do is list everything so you know everything that you're going to sell. So you can advertise
In
it.
detail?
Pretty well in detail, unless it's something minute or
Because in this
not
particular estate, I'm thinking of there might be 40 boxes of glassware. Are you going to individually take that stuff out and inventory it, or are you just going to say 40 boxes of glassware?
I would, $40 of glassware, then I look at it and put down, you know, like Wedgwood, there's a lot of Wedgwood there, I noticed that, and then I saw a piece of Roseville. But it
So
was,
put down some key names that you say.
yeah,
on
use
it.
the key names, like that's not Ruby Red, I called it Ruby Red, but they call that Royal Swirl, is what they call that one pattern, the red one, and I didn't know that either, you know. I'm not that good on glass, I always have to find out. I know a little bit, you know, that's dangerous.
Mhm.
Got some nice stuff there though in glass. Just glass doesn't sell, but it'll sell a little better at the estate sale.
Okay, one more question for you. What's the best way to advertise for an estate sale?
Well, I always use the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's been some time ago, but I would still use a couple of newspapers. Probably the Gary paper because that's over, in the Gary area. And then I'd do one down by Crown Point or even this area,
Now, how about physical signs? Are you going to put up signs as you would for a
Oh,
garage sale?
absolutely, absolutely.
How many do you think we should put up for that?
Well, I'd have one down on the corners, Main Street
On all
to
the
the
main
corner.
streets?
From the main streets pointing down, taking you to that house. It's only a couple blocks off the main streets. But I would have them on the main streets from all the different angles too, down there on Fifth Avenue, I think that is. And then the other one's Broadway. I'd have, Broadway. It's a couple blocks away, but I would have them. And I'd have the address and then have, signs pointing that way. And then in the yard, I'd have 2 or 3 big signs, estate sale.
Do you think that 1 day is enough time to handle that estate?
I think 2 days.
Does that include the setup day, or is that 2 sale days?
Well, I think that the Friday I would open it. Matter of fact, I'd open up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Friday, Thursday is set up pretty well, and then Friday while you're open, you could be setting up too. Give them most of the stuff up. There's not that much difference. There's a little bit, a lot of small stuff, and I think that'll work to your advantage.
Okay, well, that's an interesting take on estate sales. I've never done one. I've only been to 1 or 2. Now that the 2 that I was at, they were run by someone that wasn't part of the estate, so they were like companies that were hired to do it.
I'll tell you what we did one time. Of course, we weren't really. I wouldn't consider myself a professional when it comes to, whether you get paid, you're a professional. But I wouldn't consider myself top notch as an estate sale. Although it doesn't take too much for a picker of people to buy and sell to do it. But we used to have a table, one table.
Mm-hmm.
We had some pretty nice stuff on it, and they could make a silent bid on it. And if that silent bid matched the price underneath it, or wherever we had a list, we'd flip it over and look, they could take it.
What if their bid was higher than your price?
They could definitely take it.
At which price? The price they wrote or the price underneath?
Price they wrote.
Okay. That's a nice trick. I like that. So I have a little silent auction in the middle of the estate sale.
And again, like with everything else, Vince, and you know this better than I do, or as well, for darn sure, is that nothing is etched in stone. Everything changes as you go through stuff and look through stuff.